We found out yesterday that police have now a specific unit set up to respond to restore passenger rail protesters, which we now happens about every 2 or 3 days. It's disrupting traffic and holding up our city. Is there any way that these protesters can be stopped?
Well, I support them. I mean,
can I have a look at your hands? Have you put glue on your hands?
The fact that the police are setting up a unit, that's ridiculous. We live in a democracy. They're very, very concerned about climate change and they're taking action.
You haven't glued yourself to the studio, have you, Iona?
She's not leaving until you agree.
Well, you've never owned a car, you've never driven a car, and hopefully you'll never need the emergency services getting to you because they won't be able to get to you because of protesters, and you still support them. Surely a little flag at Parliament would be just as good a protest.
No one's stopping emergency vehicles.
They are.
Well,
I don't think any ambulances have been stopped by these protests.
Well, I can tell you absolutely that one of my colleagues from this work whose wife, and this is really serious, is a high-end surgical nurse trying to get from Paraparaumu to Wellington for an emergency operation. It was held up an hour. So that whole operational process was held up an hour. So you can't tell me that's not serious.
Yeah, no. I agree, but we are also faced with a devastating climate change and
so you
politicians aren't listening.
think as a Wellington City Councillor, it's okay to glue yourself to a main arterial road into the city and absolutely cause disruption in the city that you're a councillor on?
Well, of course, I'd be worried about their safety, just given what we've talked about at the start of the meeting.
You'll be worried about the safety of the protesters?
Well, yeah, everyone's safety. I don't like people dying unnecessarily, obviously, or being injured.
But you're supporting them?
But I do support the right of protest, even if it's inconvenient for people. Now, I'm sorry. In the case of emergency vehicles, look, those protesters, of course, should let people through.
Yeah, if I was in the terrace tunnel, to be honest, I've never been disrupted by climate protesters, but I have been disrupted, I think, by Voices for Freedom. So it's interesting to see how that we have people taking over Parliament and one half of the establishment go, this is terrible, they shouldn't be allowed to do this, and then in come climate protesters and Simeon Brown on Twitter's going, get rid of they can't do this. We need a consistent approach to all protest, and whether it's someone that's anti-vax or in a tractor or Shane Ardern protesting the fart tax or a climate protester, we need to have a set of it's like the SIS used to let far right people go, but they'd look at Muslim extremists or communists. You need to look at all things and be fair.
Oh, I do not agree with that. Okay, finally we're getting some disagreement. Voices for Freedom are a dangerous group of people with Nazi sympathisers.
Yes, but people have a right to protest even when you disagree with them. But you can't say they're bad protesters, but these guys are good protesters. They are protesters. And you have to deal with the rule of law.
There are limits to the rights of free speech.
Yeah. But, this is the problem we have, is that someone stops your traffic because they don't want vaccination. The next minute it's climate change. I happen to totally agree with the aims of the protesters, but if I'm in a car, I'm not sure if I'm going to have the same liberality.
We'd all love to be able to hop on a train this afternoon and go to New Plymouth for the weekend. We'd all love to be able to do that, but reality is we don't have the population, and these people are starting to pee everybody off in the city.
Yeah, but the history of the world has changed. Often happens because radicals get out the front and tell everyone something, and what seems radical, in 1 year, 5 years later, is not radical anymore.
Okay, I've got to change the subject because I quickly want to get to one more subject before Hots and Knots. Anzac Day. Thousands flocked to Wellington's Memorial.